Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you on this Thursday morning on the Mike Francesa channel on the Bet Rivers Network on YouTube as we while away the days getting ready for Super Bowl 59, which should be a very contentious affair. I know there has been a real lack of enthusiasm for this game, both in terms of the marketplace, in terms of just the overall is the idea that there is a Chiefs fatigue that is set in. But I think all that will change as we get close to the game, and I think we have a chance for a very competitive game. These are two very good teams. You could make a case this is the strongest team the Chiefs have played in the Super Bowl. The Eagles are very talented. I thought the most talented roster in the NFL this year belonged to, well, it could have belonged to the Eagles when you take in the defense. It might have belonged to the Ravens. I thought the Ravens were the best team. I think if they could have got out of the Buffalo game, they might have won the whole thing. I would have backed them to win the whole thing. Uh, no surprise the Eagles are here. The Lions' collapse was palpable with the defense the way it was. Um, so you have a very good matchup. You can make a case that the two strongest teams are here. I would include the Ravens in the same mix. Um, and we should get a very good game. The line hasn't moved even an inch. Tomorrow we'll do our analysis of the game. Hey, I always try to stay away from a lot of stuff until the last day with this game because it gets so much overkill. You can only take and consume so much of it. It really gets crazy. Um, the NFL leading up to the Super Bowl has always been about corporate excess and everything else. That's always on display at the Super Bowl. Um, and the Super Bowl it's really for newcomers. It's for people who haven't experienced it before. That's really where the enthusiasm is. That's really because if you've been there and you're a veteran to it, it gets kind of old, to be honest with you, because it's kind of like the same thing every other day. And there's just too much time and too much promotion about the same content. Tonight is the honors stuff, so we'll find out about the Hall of Fame. I don't know why everyone says Eli knows already. I don't know what procedure they're using. Everyone says he knows whether he's in or not. So if you want to try and read his face today, I don't know what the process would be that would allow him to do that. But that's what everyone says. So it's out there. So you might see it leak beforehand. He seems to be the one Hall of Fame issue. I mean, we can make the case for and against other people, but this seems to be the one because there's some people who look at Eli's regular season and say, "Oh, he's not a Hall of Fame. He never made All Pro. He never did this. He never did that. He never did this." Well, what he did was he played with a consistency and a toughness and a grace week after week, day after day. Never had an issue. Never brought even an ounce of discredit to his organization, was outstanding in every way, was a team guy. And then, when given the opportunities to raise his game, which did not come that often in his career, it's not like they came every year, but when they did come, there was nobody better. Look at the quarterbacks he beat, including Brady twice. Look at the quarterbacks he beat on the road. Look at the performance he put in Green Bay, put in Dallas. Look at the games that he played. Look at the plays that he made. And if you want to wonder, and I'm on the side of Eli being a Hall of Famer, have been always. If you want to wonder, then take the biggest game that anybody ever plays in and just take the fourth quarter play by play and jot down every play that Eli made in the fourth quarter of his two victories. And he made some of the clutch plays in the history of the NFL. He was at his best at the biggest moments. And when you can say that about a guy who played forever, Had a 500 record in the regular season because the last couple of years of his career really damaged his. But for the most part, he was a winning quarterback because he was above 500 until the last couple of days, and he wound up right around 500. He won 2 Super Bowls, and when you jot down the guys at quarterback who have been 2 time Super Bowl winners and 2 time Super Bowl MVPs, the list is a who's who of great players. His brother's not on that list. Many, many great quarterbacks are not on that list. But you know who is on that list? Bart Starr, Joe Montana, obviously Tom Brady, okay? Terry Bradshaw, Mahomes, Eli Manning. Every one of those quarterbacks who has won the MVP twice on winning teams is in the Hall of Fame or going to the Hall of Fame. Brady and Mahomes not yet in. Mahomes obviously still only through a portion of his career, but you're talking about the top, top quarterbacks ever in the game. And you're talking about guys who came up big in big spots, led their team to victories. And yes, the quarterback gets the MVP too often. You could make the case that when Peyton won with Indianapolis, he didn't deserve the MVP. Doesn't matter. A lot of times when they don't have one player, they give it to the leader. A lot of people through the years have thought that Joe Namath shouldn't have won the MVP for Super Bowl III. That's for people who don't understand the sport. Snell had a really good game. But not only was Namath the defiant leader, but he ran the entire game. And this is a bygone era because there's nothing like this now. He ran the entire game from his head, but he ran the entire second half from the line of scrimmage. All he did in the huddle was say, check with me. And he called everything at the line of scrimmage and kept that great Colt defense off balance. Not only with the runs with Snell, but with passes in key spots to Snell and to Sauer and to different guys and made plays. Made plays. Now they turned the ball over a lot that day. The Jet defense was really good. But remember, they were a dominant football team, the Colts. That's why they were a 19-point favorite in the game. 17 and a half to 19, depending on where you were and who you were. But he deserved it. Despite not throwing a touchdown pass, despite not putting up gaudy stats, he deserved it because he was the leader and he was the guy running the show in what was a very underrated Jet team. And the interesting thing, that game gets so much attention. It's considered the other game in the bookends, the 2 games that changed the NFL, that game, and of course, the 58 championship game with the Unitas and the Colts and the Giants, the 2 games that ushered in the new era of the NFL. But a game that was incredibly important that got overlooked was the next year because no one learned their lesson. The Vikings were 12.5-point favorites over Kansas City, and Kansas City destroyed them, absolutely embarrassed them. Remember the show that Hank Stram put on the sideline? Knowing he was mic'd by Sable in NFL Films, put on an absolute clinic. And it was a clinic with his offense of the 70s, which lasted exactly 1 year. But hey, it was big that day with his diminutive backs and Otis Taylor and Lenny DeCool at quarterback. So don't overlook what the quarterback brings to this game, especially in that bygone era where the quarterback really was the offensive leader and the brains of the operation. To now, where things have obviously changed dramatically, to where you have coaches' voices in your helmet and so many different people inputting what goes on the field. So we'll find out tonight about Eli. We'll finally get to the game. I would be shocked if this isn't a close game. Shocked. If this game isn't up for grabs in the fourth quarter, I would be absolutely stunned because these two teams aren't going to shake each other off. They're both too good for that. They're both too dangerous for that. They're both too complete for that. So I think the masters of the one score win, who have won 17 straight one score games. And hey, this is what I would say to the Eagles. You don't want to be in a position where you kick him the ball up a couple of points in the fourth quarter because he'll beat you. He will just beat you. You want to ensure that? Kick it to him up 2 scores. Then you can watch him try to do something magical. And he'll get one, but he won't get two. Tomorrow we'll give you analysis, break it down, give you some props. I gave you one of those same game parlays already, which was got it over 4.5 catches and a couple of little quirky ones which I like, which is Perrine over 8.5, which is one of my specialties that I covered last week on the last play of the game, and Worthy over 6.5 yards rushing because they're going to use those RPOs. They've been running him at over 30% in the playoffs, and they're going to run him. I would say probably 2 or 3 different times in the game. They're going to. I think Andy's going in the game saying I'm putting the ball in his hands 10 times in this game, which means if I target him 7 times, he'll catch 5. Maybe I target him 8 times, he catches 6, and then I put the ball in his hands 2 or 3 times running the ball. He wants Worthy to get touches because Worthy can break any play he touches. And the Chiefs are masters at stretching the field, and their yard after catch stuff is good, and Worthy's as dynamic as anybody in the league at yards after catch. And he has become, he's coming off his best game. As a matter of fact, the Chiefs' offense, which was extremely limited, and is still vulnerable at the offensive tackles and even at the offensive line because moving Thuney out creates a void inside too. They used to have an incredible strength inside. They're not as strong inside now because they moved Thuney from guard, and now you move him to tackle where he goes from being a very good player to a mediocre player. They are very weak at the tackles, and this is a very good front. Nolan Smith's looking to become the first player in the history of the league to get 4 sacks in 4 different playoff games in the same year. Never happened before. I think he will get a sack. I think Chris Jones will get a sack. I don't know if Carter will get a sack because I think he'll be double teamed a lot. But I think Chris Jones, who moves around a lot, will get a sack, and I think Nolan Smith will get a sack. Because one thing Hurst does is he holds onto the ball too long. That's a weakness that he has. But we'll get into all that tomorrow and everything else. Let's get to a couple other things today. Then we'll get to some emails and everything else. Let me remind you as we get closer to the game and you think about all your little fun wages and everything for the game. Bet on the big game with the Bet Rivers Sportsbook and earn a chance to be one of the 5,900 players to win prizes in the big game 59K bonus bet giveaway. Check out the Bet Rivers app for full details. So they'll have everything you want there. And they even have one of those boxes for you if you want to just shoot, print that out. 0 9 on this side, 0 9 on that side. And you can fill in your own little spaces that you have. Alonso goes back to the Mets. Good for him. It clearly is what he wanted. Now, what are we left with? The Mets had a void until they got someone to play that position. This now gives them a slugger from the right side, some protection for Soto. Listen, he doesn't have Judge behind him anymore. it keeps Vientos at third base, which is positive because to change his position as he tries to establish himself as a star, as he tries to make sure that last year was not a fluke, and they'll make adjustments to him, and he's going to have to make adjustments to the league. It's easier if he's playing a position that he clearly improved that last year. Now you have Pete back. It's a little funny dance that's going to happen here. Now, as you start the year, the money will be forgotten, but you don't know if the feelings will be forgotten. Now, Stearns clearly didn't care one way or the other whether Pete came back. He obviously, that was clear by his actions. They gave Pete a take it or leave it offer, and he took it. Could he have gone somewhere else for more money? We don't know that, but I don't think he could have gone somewhere else for a lot more money because he would have. He wanted to be a Met, we know that. But he's really, let's be honest, in his mind, he's on a 1 year contract because his idea is to have a big year, win, have a big year, and then deny the player option, hope the Mets pony up, which they won't, and then let him go somewhere else off his big year. The problem is there is not a big market for corner players who are one-dimensional sluggers who are aging. It's not a prototype that Stearns likes. It's clear. He saw what Pete brought to the table, and let's be honest, he got him at a bargain basement price. Now, the question is this: is Pete strong enough and smart enough and tough enough to just put all this behind him? Because let's be honest, he's going back to the Mets with his tail between his legs. It's not his team anymore. He has to walk into a locker room where they adore Lindor and he makes a fortune. And they've given other players money. And they gave their right fielder the entire building and gave his mother whatever she wanted and gave his family whatever they wanted and gave everybody whatever they wanted. And the side deals for Soto were bigger than Alonso's contract. So he has to go back and put all that aside. It's not his team anymore. Can he get past that? Does his personality allow him to get? And maybe he can. The fans wanted him back, and they are going to be very happy that he's back. They are happy that he's back. They're going to treat him very well. We know that. But this is going to be obviously something that he has to deal with, and it's going to be front and center every day as he sees Soto. Hey, Lindor has a special place on that team, but Soto is now the man. That was obvious by what they did to get him. Now, how they play the lineup, we can fiddle around with that. I've seen some lineups that make no sense. I've seen some lineups that make plenty of sense. The only question you have here is Soto batting 2 or Soto batting 3? That's the first thing you have to decide. Once you decide that, you can put your protections. I would think you have Vientos and Alonso behind Soto. Maybe in a 4-7. I would myself start with, and you can adjust this. I would start with Lindor, Nimmo, and I know a lot of people like to put Soto in the 2. I prefer the 3 myself, and then I'd go Vientos and Alonso. Give Vientos a chance to bat there. If he struggles, you can always put Alonso up behind him. So, and create some traffic on the base pass so that you get more run producing play out of Soto than you do if he's in the 2 hole. That's why I would put him third. Now, again, it isn't that, it isn't brain surgery making a lineup. We know he's going to bat either two or three. We know that. We know he's going to have either Alonso or Vientos behind him. We know that. So they can decide which way they want to play it from that standpoint. But I think the bigger thing is Pete had a place on this team. He was the man for a long time, and now he's not anymore. Can he handle that? Can he put all that aside, do what's needed for this team to win, and have that big year that allows him to at least partially cash in? I don't think with his age and everything else he's ever going to really cash in. The money he gave up is gone forever. They don't like aging players, especially one-dimensional power hitters at corner positions. They don't love them. They made that very clear. There's not a market for them. And if you're into who won the negotiation, the Mets destroyed him in the negotiation. And they actually embarrassed them. They can act like they didn't. Hey, we paid him $24 million. They were paying $30 million this year, $24 million next year. We're not embarrassing anybody. It's good money. But this guy was looking for a $200 million contract. You got $30 million for 1 year and an option year for next year at 24, which he's not going to take if he has a big year. Gives the Mets flexibility. What they did is really smart from their standpoint. But does it allow them to get out of Pete what they need out of Pete? That remains to be seen. But they, Stearns has shown that he knows what he's doing. That's obvious. And as far as Alonso's relationship with Boras, who cares? I mean, I really don't care. Anybody, I could have taken somebody off the street and negotiated Soto's contract. And you would have gotten the same money that Boras got. Boras didn't have to do anything for Soto, and he couldn't do anything for Alonso. But don't blame Boras for Pete's problems. They're Pete's problems, not Boras's problems. And whether he keeps Boras, loses Boras, I could care less. That doesn't matter to me. There wasn't the market for Pete that they all thought there was, and which Boras clearly sold Pete a bill of goods. We know that. But he sold a lot of players a bill of goods. That's what he does. He's good at selling people stuff. Some of it works out, some of it doesn't. The high-end guys, the guys who can't miss and are no-brainers, he always gets them signed. Well, heck, anybody could get them signed. It's the other guys that you have to be imaginative with, and whatever he put together, whatever his little portfolio for Pete was, it didn't ring any bells, that's for sure. It didn't work. I'm going to get to the emails because of the fact that I saw one that will launch me into something I wanted to talk about. So I will start there. Here we go. Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. That's where you go to send your messages, send your emails. Here we go. David, why is the NBA regular season worse than it was 30 years ago, and what can be done to fix it? 85, 83, 81, 80, 79, 78, 76, 75, 74, 72. Snap count? Nope. Numbers of players who are in the Hall of Fame? Probably. Some of them. 85, 83, 81, 80, 79, 78, 76, 75, 74, 72. The number of three-point shots that teams took last night in the games. 85. Curry took 18 threes last night. He made 6. 18 threes. The three-point shot, when it was adopted, was not put in the league to become the staple of the game. The game is basically it's release and retrieve. That's the game now. Release and retrieve. I turned on the San Antonio uh, Atlanta game last night, 7 o'clock, which I very rarely do on it for the NBA, but I turned it on for a reason. I wanted to see Wemby. I'm fascinated by Wemby because he is a freakish player and a very talented one. And the age of Wemby is almost upon us. They have Castle, who's going to be a really good player. They have Vassell. They now have Fox. They have Wemby. They need a power forward, somebody to protect Wemby and get rebounds, and they'll be in the age of Wemby, which is coming. This year, the Thunder are going to the finals. I told you that before, and there's no way they're not. I'd be stunned if they don't go to the finals. Um, and like I said, the age of Wemby is around the corner, and the Lakers made another trade, and a trade that will help them immediately. And they had the goods to make another trade because they didn't give up all their pieces to get Luka, as we know. Butler was traded, but the problem with the league is not the trades. The problem in the league is not that they don't have personalities. The problem in the league is that the game stinks, and that they have completely devalued the regular season. This rest that has been incorporated into their schedules has destroyed the integrity of the regular season. Add to that, now it is a league that just plays to just chuck up threes. I watched the first 3 minutes of Atlanta San Antonio, and there must have been 15 threes shot in the first 3 minutes of the game. And half of them was shot with nobody near the player. So in the first half, these are just wide open threes. And then they knuckle down in the last 5 minutes and don't give anybody an open look. But the bottom line is all night they're just wide open threes, and they still clang them off the rims. Obviously, the best way to make a three is off a rebound. Those are the ones that are anywhere, college game, off a rebound or off a miss is the best way to make a three because your next one's going to be wide open. Game's terrible. It's virtually unwatchable. And now they're admitting with that ridiculous tournament they have in the beginning of the season, which does nothing but swipes at the integrity of the sport. And now they talk about cutting the games, cutting the schedules, and cutting the length of the games. And players just, you have to check any night if you're interested in a game, or if you're someone who wages on the NBA, and I don't. And I know the NBA, if you play it religiously, can be wagered on. I'm not saying you can't, but what I'm saying is that I just don't care enough to do it. But you have to make sure guys are in the lineup. And a lot of times you just don't know. They sit out for no reasons. So think about the kid who, got a ticket to go to that one game. Well, they don't care about that kid. They haven't cared about him in a long time. We know that. But their sport is in terrible shape. As a matter of fact, owners are trying to run from the NBA. No question about it. If I had an NBA team right now, I'd sell it. That's how, and owning any team is a big deal. But right now, I wouldn't want to buy an NBA team. Not the way the league's going. Not until they fix their problems, and they have to fix them. That league has to be fixed. The game has to be changed. Has to be. And they know it. They just have to figure out how they want to fix it. Now, Butler to the Warriors, it sounds like you almost got the impression that they weren't happy to get him. You almost got the idea that Curry and Green didn't want him. And he didn't want to go there. Nice way to make a trade. And the Lakers actually made a trade that's going to help them short term in Williams. They gave up Dalton, obviously, who we know can shoot the ball. He's not a defender, but so what? I mean, but he's got a chance now to go there and score like crazy and probably become rookie of the year. Um, they get Reddish swap picks. Hey, they got a center who's not a great defender, but as an improving player, 15 and 10 in Williams. And what he can do is he will be very good in the pick and roll, and he will catch the lobs from LeBron and Luca. And there'll be plenty of those. And he can catch the lob and score. So that's a big positive. But here's the thing. The Lakers can put a good sized team on the floor now. They have two distinct problems. Number one, Luca and LeBron are both much better with the ball. One of them will now not have the ball. I would think it's probably going to be Luca with the ball, but that doesn't suit LeBron. It really doesn't. They can play a big team, but they're not a good defensive team. They're going to be a terrible defensive team without Davis and without Christie, who is a very good defender. Not only are they going to be weak because those guys are out, they're going to be weak because Luca and LeBron now, who's having an amazing season at his age, 24 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. I mean, that's an insane year for a guy his age. He is a marvel, but he had to give up something. He gave up defense. Luka doesn't play defense. LeBron doesn't play a lot of defense. Williams is not a good rim protector. He's one of the poorest centers in the league as a rim protector. They are going to be a bad offensive team, a defensive team, really bad. There's teams that they're just going to get destroyed by. But hey, they now have marquee power. Warriors have marquee power now with Butler and Curry, who forget how that works. Okay, I mean Green and Butler are supposedly already exchanging words. What else is there? You put those two in a room, who knows what's going to happen? Fox going to San Antonio is obviously uplifting for the Spurs, who didn't have to give up their pieces to get him because they kept Castle and they kept Bassel. Those are two key pieces for them. They are close. They won't get there this year. Hopefully they make the playoffs because it'd be exciting to have them in a round and then let them lose. Fine. They're one step away from the age of Wemby is coming. But this year belongs to Oklahoma City in the West. And the guy who's going to win the MVP, he had 50 last night. So he gets 50 without working up a sweat in this league. But they have huge problems. And on Super Bowl week, it's not the week to discuss the NFL with that, the NBA with that stuff. If Alonso has a mediocre season, does he opt in for year 2 of his deal? Yes. If he has a lousy year, no one's going to give him more than $24 million. So yes. And the Mets will be counting the days till they get rid of him. Mets could even, if he had a really bad year this year, buy him out. If they want to sign a big player at first base, they could buy him out. So, it's a player option for $24 million. 30 this year, $24 million. I think $10 million signing bonus. Scott, will we one day see the Super Bowl in Europe? We know that Goodell's dream. I don't know that that's Goodell's dream to play the Super Bowl in Europe. I think it's his dream to play a game in Europe every week. I think that is his dream, to play a game in a different country every week. I don't think anything has to do with the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl will never be played outside the United States, and the Super Bowl will never be played on and never be broadcast on anything except free TV, because Congress, which is enough of its own problems, won't allow it. But no, I do not think the Super Bowl will ever be played off the American. It will be always played on American ground. Now, I wouldn't give you that every playoff game is going to be played on American ground, but I would give you for sure that the Super Bowl will always be played on American soil. Why do you think there is so much Chiefs and Mahomes fatigue? Do you remember it being that way for Pats and Brady? Yes, I do. Yes. I do remember it being that way. And I think what happens is the Chiefs have not only continued to win, but they've been on national TV so many times, and we've watched the same script over and over. Play badly, come from behind. You know, the amazing thing is in all three of their Super Bowls, they've come from behind to win. They have no problem being behind in these games. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they're behind at the half. It's almost like they're comfortable being behind at the half. And the game they won against San Francisco, which San Francisco was within one play. I was at that game. I took Harrison and Jack and Julio. They were within one play, San Francisco, of winning that game. A 3rd and 6. And I've talked about it many times that he missed Kittle, who was wide open. And I think it's killed them. I think it actually made them want to get rid of Garoppolo, that they could not live with the fact. They probably went back and looked at the play 1,000 times that he missed it was right in front of me. He missed a wide open Kittle for first down that would have ended the game. Instead, they got the ball back. They hit the big play to Hill. They got their touchdown. They got the ball back. They scored again. They got a turnover. They scored again. They put 21 quick points up, and good night the lights. But they are amazing at playing badly, doing nothing, and then coming up and winning the game. And this year, that's why that's why Goodell embarrasses himself, because he thinks everybody's stupid. Every fan who's watched the games this year knows that there were chapters and verses where plays that were big officials' mistakes allowed the Chiefs to win. Against the Raiders, they screwed up the game, and the Raiders had the game won. There were games this year where teams had kicks blocked or missed kicks that would have won the game. This team has been insanely lucky, and not even in some games where it wasn't even anything they did, they still got the break and won the game. Something always went right for them. If any team is due to have everything go wrong for them in a game, it is the Chiefs. They have gotten Lady Luck not only to be their friend, she has moved in. And she has a mad crush on the Chiefs because nothing goes wrong for them. And if you don't believe that's true, I could show you video evidence of this game after game after game, and everybody knows it. It's not a secret. So when he gets up there and says, "Oh, the Chiefs haven't gotten any breaks," nothing has happened. No one said, at least no one who's credible has made the statement that there is some conspiracy or that these officials are, scripting this, or that, I know people say goofy things, but dismiss that crazy talk. No one thinks because the Chiefs now have Taylor Swift and all the Swifties watching the games that the NFL wants Kansas City in the games because they draw bigger ratings because of the Swifties. Hey, I don't believe that for a second. Do I think, though, that Kansas City has had an inordinate amount of breaks? Yes. Everybody would tell you that. I could line up anybody who's done a Chief game this year, and they would tell you that. Nobody's done more Chief games than Nance has, and he would tell you that in a second. They got every break against the Bills last week. I told you, give me a play in the last 2 playoff games against Houston where they were outgained In the Buffalo game, I don't remember. It was probably close. I don't remember who got the most yardage, the Chiefs or the Bills. I would say, off the top of my head, I would say that it was within like 20 yards of each other in final numbers of yardage for the game. Let me look it up here. The Chiefs had 368. The Bills had 374. Okay. So the Chiefs got outgained again. They've been outgained in both playoff games. Now, penalties, the Chiefs had 5 for 21. Bills had 6 for 48, but that's not the story. The story is 5 times they took Bills plays and moved the spot negatively for the Bills on all 5. Now, I didn't say the Bills got first downs on all 5. I did say that they got first downs on the 3rd and 4th downs when they were driving with the lead, trying to go up 8. They made it on 3rd down. They made it on 4th down. And the NFL will show you no video evidence to the contrary because they don't have any. And we know, like anyone knows who watches all these games, that the Chiefs have gotten an insane amount of breaks. Every bounce goes the Chiefs' way. It's just been that way. Did Houston get screwed in that game? Yes. Did they do things wrong themselves? Yes. Did they get screwed in that game? Absolutely. Those calls meant 10 points in a game that was close, in a game that Houston outplayed them from the line of scrimmage. The Chiefs are not unbeatable. What they are is insanely well coached, brilliantly driven by their quarterback, and clutch as a team. No team could be more clutch than Kansas City. They are so clutch. They they don't drop the ball when the game's on the line. They don't get stupid penalties or have the wrong personnel in or don't have the guy report. Can you imagine the Chiefs not having a guy report? Can you imagine the Chiefs not having the right personnel in the game? The Chiefs having to call timeout because they don't have 11 men on the field, or they have 12 men on the field. No, they don't do that stuff. They're too well coached for that. Andy on the offense, Spags on the defense. And give Spags credit. See, there's a guy who has found his niche. He wasn't out there trying to get another head coaching job. He has found his niche. And I think the Hunts are going to have to ante up, especially since Chip Kelly just got $6 million to be an offensive coordinator. $6 million. Spags is worth $5 million. I don't know what he's making right now. I'd say he's probably making in the area of $3 million. He deserves $5 million. You know what? It's the right job for him. And that's not an insult. I'm not insulting Spags. He's better at that than he is a head coach. He's great at being a coordinator. And he designed the blitz that Allen told you, Josh told you, hey, it fooled me. I called the protection to the left. They blitzed from the right. They fooled me. And they did. And that put all the pressure on him, and he still almost completed the pass. They don't make mistakes. And when you give Andy 2 weeks, you know he's going to have found a weak spot in the defense. He just is. He just is. You know he'll have come up with something that will work that they'll have to adjust to. And you will see them. They will make superb halftime adjustments. because they're really they're a tremendous staff. Do they have a coaching edge in this game? Yes. Now, do the Eagles have a good defensive coordinator? Yes, big time. He's very good. I'm not taking anything away from him. But are they as good as this Kansas City staff? No. Andy Reid's an all-time great, and it showed. The difference in the Bills game and the Chiefs game, the difference from that standpoint was obviously some bounces didn't go the Bills' way, but also they executed when the Bills didn't. They don't make those kind of mistakes. They have the right people in the right spot at the right time and the right play calls, and then Mahomes will execute it. And he makes every play right. He runs when he should. He passes when he should. He moves up in the pocket when he should. He moves left and right when he should. He does everything right. That's why he wins. They're not physically better than Philly, but they have a all-time quarterback and they have an all-time coach, and that's a lot of all-time. Then you throw in, a superb tight end who's a Hall of Famer, and I think the most underrated player of this generation, in Chris Jones, who might take a game off from the regular season. I am not telling you that he doesn't do that, but in the fourth quarter of these playoff games, he's hell on wheels. And he will make his presence felt like he always does. And it's no coincidence that he's on the winning side all the time. No coincidence at all. He's that good. Tomorrow, Football Friday, for the last time in the regular season and the last time of the season, pick everything else. We'll see you tomorrow.